Hello there, and welcome to episode 55 of The Cosmic Force. Tonight, we hope to have a very civilized conversation about Obi-Wan Kenobi for Utini's Kenobi Week. Tonight, we are actually going to be talking about from the Journals of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So it is going to be a fun night as we get ready for the new show and celebration coming up. So let's go ahead and get started with our introductions, and I will toss it over to our usual first host, Emma. How are we doing tonight?
Oh, it's a great night. It's a great night. It's always good to talk about Kenobi. And man, I gotta say, like, you are killing it with the Jedi robes over there. I know you didn't
It is
mention
hot.
it, but it is, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. But listen, it's a good look on you. I think you should do this every night. I don't know why you don't. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about Kenobi, and the hype could not be more real. And this is only like increasing the hype. So, I mean, we have, what is it, like, a week and 2 days until Kenobi premieres, so it's exciting times.
It really is. Yes. I always try to find a reason to wear this. Haven't worn this since Chicago, and it's hot. It's very, very hot.
Too hot for Florida.
Yeah. So that fan does not reach over here. So we'll see how long it lasts. But we will. Let's go over to our fellow, another Jedi of mine, Caleb, who is also just as dashingly dressed tonight. Hello there, Master
Hello
Jedi.
there.
With the hood.
With the hood, yes. This is I'm going to brag on my wife again. She made this in record time, and like I love this. Now, if you're talking about heat, this is 100% pure wool.
Yeah,
and
mine's not. So yours
it's about
is worse.
80 degrees here in Georgia. So it's I'm going to keep this on all the episode long as a loving token to my wife. But boy, I don't know if I'll be much left of me left over other than a little sticky wet mess here. So I'm ready to talk about Kenobi. I think we're going to have a great week here. I said, I already know. I tuned in. I was about to say yesterday, but Monday to the Living Force, and they had a great killer episode about Kenobi in general. We're going to be a little bit more specific about Old Ben here, and we're going to have a great time. But before we get too far, I think we have one more person we need to talk about, maybe two technically.
Well, we technically have two, so let us say hi to Timothy and his co-host. Where is your co-host today?
Yeah, co-host Jacob is right next to me, and Timothy, of course, I know him. He's me.
It is.
I am a Kenobi light. If there was a target out near him there in Tatooine, so he would probably be rocking this a little bit.
Oh, I love that.
So I'm not as fly as you guys with the full Jedi compliments, but you know,
either we can share.
No, real quick, would a target on Tatooine, wouldn't that be the Womp Rat?
I believe you are absolutely correct. So yes, the Womp Rat. That's great. We need to make that happen. Somebody, author Charles Soule Comics, make that happen.
Yes.
All right. Well, if you are joining us for the first time, welcome. We are a Star Wars comics podcast that broadcasts live right here on youtube.com/utini every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. If you can't join us live, that is quite all right, because we are also available on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. We are also part of the Utini podcast network of shows and a Discord channel at utini.com/Discord with more than 1,000 members and dozens of channels to talk in, including our own Kenobi channel, where that is getting lots of hype this week. So we very much encourage you to join us at utini.com/Discord. And if you like what you see and you want to say thanks, then head on over to our Patreon channel at patreon.com/Utini, where for as little as $5 a month, you can gain exclusive access to the entire Utini podcast network of shows, as well as exclusive merch and community involvement activities. And Emma, I do believe we have a couple of new patrons that we want to say thank you to this week.
We do, yeah. I want to say a special thank you to our new annual patron, Matthew Mislensky, and our new monthly patron, Alan Vaughn. Thank you both so much. Thank you to all of our patrons. Celebration is next week, which is crazy. A week from tomorrow is the first day, and all of our support from our patrons is the only thing that has made this possible, with our booth and giveaways and our party. So a huge thank you to every single one of you, and thank you so much to our two new patrons.
All right, let's go ahead and get into the weekly pull list. We have a couple of new books this week. So Emma, why don't you go ahead and tell us what we have available for us?
Absolutely. So we've got two new comics this week: Han Solo and Chewbacca #2, The Crystal Run Part 2, written by Mark Guggenheim, pencils by David Messina, the cover by Phil Noto, colors by Alex Sinclair, and the letters by Joe Caramanga. And next up, we have another Dr. Aphra issue, Dr. Aphra #20, subtitle Eternity, written by Alyssa Wong, pencils by Mingyu Jung, the cover by W. Scott Forbes, colors by Rochelle Rosenberg, and letters again by Joe Caramanga. And as always, you can find all of the affiliate links to these in the description down below.
I'm really enjoying both of those covers. Those looked like a lot of fun. Speaking of covers, what we're loving this week, Caleb, we've got a series of special covers that we wanted to highlight in honor of Kenobi week and the release of Obi-Wan #1. So why don't you go ahead and start giving us a little bit of the rundown about all these special covers?
Exactly. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, like 8+ variant covers for Obi-Wan #1. They love variant covers for first issues, but this is something special. They're pulling out all the stops. And our first one here is a 1 in 10 movie cover. This is a still from what I assume is a production of episode 3, as we see short-haired, non-mullet Obi-Wan standing there, proud. In a, I'm guessing, I think that's the invisible hand,
I
or
believe so.
the
Looks like it.
was that the invincible?
Invisible,
yes, Grievous's flagship. So a really, I mean, it's a very striking cover, but it's it's not drawn, so negative points in that category.
I don't know how you can talk about color when you have this dashing guy on this cover. I mean,
It's perfect is what you're looking for.
Perfect, yes. So it's all downhill from here as we just remove more and more degrees away from reality. But this next one is the Ario cover, I believe, right?
Yes, the show Ario Anandito.
Ario Anandito, he's the actual artist for the inside, but he also gave his pin to the outside cover. This one is an old bin with a lit lightsaber and tons of various intricate survival gear here. I really like this. It's kind of like a desert road warrior Obi-Wan look here.
Yeah. This reminds me of
Mad Max feel.
Yeah, very much. It reminds me of that figure that Freddy has, and he's shown it on Legends Look Back before, like the figure
the
arts
Power
or
to
something
Force
like
thing?
that. No, it's like a statue. It's like, oh shoot, I can't remember the name of it, but they've made like a statue of Obi-Wan that looks almost exactly like this. He's in his survival gear. You can tell he's been out in the desert for a long time. It's a very cool look.
Charles is commenting that that's less Obi-Wan and more Bear Grylls, which is probably very true. Conserve that moisture there.
I buy it.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's only 1 in 25, so good luck with that one. Next up is the David Nakamaya cover. This is the Virgin cover B, so there's no writing on it. This is Old Bin with a lit lightsaber facing towards the audience here.
Yeah, this is very nice. I like how it looks kind of dusty towards the bottom. Like you can tell it's kind of windy, and you wouldn't really want to be outside very long if you couldn't help it.
Exactly. So some fun ones there. Next up is the E.M. Geist cover with another Old Bin, but this one with a lit lightsaber. But this time he's turning towards the viewer with the 2 twin suns beaming down on him. I really like this cover. I think not to neg the last one too much, but I like this one more than the previous one because it looks a lot more dynamic. I love like the dustiness and heat feeling from the suns. I just really love this image a lot.
This is the one that I picked up. This is the variant cover that I picked up at my local comic store. So I really enjoyed this cover too.
Yeah, you got good choice. Good choice. All right, next up here is the Peach Momoko variant, featuring a young Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn on kind of the back of a floral background. Kind of a nice kind of looking at. Normally, she's done a lot of female character arcs. So now we get to see some pretty boys here. So we get to see a pretty boy, young tween Anakin, and I love Qui-Gon's like very dapper looking mustache there.
Yeah, I like this one. It's I always like seeing more Qui-Gon art, to be honest with you. Like, even though he wasn't in this issue, or was he? I can't even remember. It feels like so long ago. But yeah, it was good. And the floral background there is pretty cool too. I've liked a lot of Peach Momoko's covers for the High Republic, so it's cool to see them do one for Obi-Wan.
Absolutely. All right. So now we have a Kin Lashki variant, a bearded Obi-Wan hiking with a Vader helmet facing in the same direction in the background. This one's have a very dynamic art looking here. They're dealing with a kind of a like a theme, a variant of memories here. So we're going to see a few more like shadowy figures moving forward. But I like this a lot.
Can I
could
just
very
say what
much-
we're all thinking? This is hot.
This looks like the show. Well, that
Yes,
too.
this looks like the show, and it's hot.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I love any time that they can tie Anakin and Obi-Wan, or Vader and Obi-Wan together. I think
Yeah.
that adds a different layer of feeling there. So,
Definitely.
all right, that was half the list. So I'm going to go ahead and let Caleb take a little bit of a break, and I will go ahead and read the rest of them. Starting with one of my favorite artists, Mike Mayhew has his variant. And this is a hooded Ben looking down at the viewer, spying, looking like he's spying on something kind of off in the distance. Always gotta love Mike Mayhew's covers. They have a sense of realism to them. And this one, it definitely has that feeling as well. His lightsaber, his robes, all look amazingly photorealistic. So this one is definitely a very interesting one as well.
Yeah, the robes have a nice texture to them, and I always love seeing what Mike Mayhew comes up with for Star Wars. It's always good stuff.
Yes.
Exactly.
All right. The one after this is a Tyler Kirkham variant, and this is a hooded Ben with a lit, where he has a lit lightsaber, and a Zabrak's ghostly face is in the background. Who exactly is that? We don't know. Maybe it is somebody that we will be seeing as the story unfolds. So that's this one has the most questions, as in how does this tie back into the book?
I thought she showed up in the actual, not in the first issue.
Oh, that's right. Was
She was like the pirate.
The pilot. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
I will say I do love the lightsaber lens flare happening.
Yes.
The multiple flares. This one does get bonus points because it actually like features something that happened in the comic itself, not just things around it. So
Good
bonus
call
points
on that. All right, and then our last one that we have listed, it might not necessarily be the last one that is available, but the last one that we have listed is of a Phil Noto cover. This is not the variant, but this is the cover A. It's the old and the young Obi-Wan with Vader in the foreground. Kind of the full story of Obi-Wan and all of his, that encompasses pretty much everything that we know about this character so far. So yeah, very, very classic. I can see why this was chosen as the A cover, because it's got a very, very classic look to it.
Yeah, great stuff. This is I feel like this is such an iconic like Obi-Wan image now. You kind of see like both versions of him that we know and love, like the Ewan version and the Sir Alec Guinness version, and Tatooine suns and Vader. It's got all the iconic, Obi-Wan related imagery, so it's very good.
All right. Any of those that we stick out to you as favorites? I mean, like I said, I love Mike Mayhew's art. I picked up the EM Geist cover myself, so those are the two of my favorites. What about you guys?
I'm torn between the go for it.
I really liked the Ken Lashley one, the one with Vader head, and Obi-Wan's kind of sitting there, mostly because it reminds me of the show, also because he's really good looking in this one. But no, the suns do this really cool lighting type of situation there. So yeah, I really like that one.
Yeah, I'm torn between that one and The Primary by Phil Noto. I love that you get the primary Obi-Wan that we were used to, I guess, growing up with the original trilogy, but then seeing the Ewan Obi-Wan and Darth Vader being there at the bottom, kind of the focus. Like his whole career is built around trying to protect this Skywalker legacy,
Right.
and it's really cool the way they did that.
Yeah.
Yep. I said if I were to pick one winner, I think it'd be the Tyler Kirkham variant, the one with the hooded bin. I love the action and like the motion on his face. Then on that character, you can't even see his face through the hood, and like the Zabrak's face gives a lot of mystery. Like, who is this character? Is she important? Like, what's the tie-in here? And I really like that cover a lot, if only because it actually reference something on the inside of the comic, so you can tell that they're working with a little bit more. I know it's almost a trope of like comic covers having nothing to do with what's actually going on in the system, in the actual writing, but that was my vote. If I could find it when I go to my local comic store, if they have that, I'd buy that in a heartbeat.
All right. Well, I have a note here. We are going to go ahead and take a break, but there's a note here that says go to Emma before ad. So Emma, I'm going to go ahead and go to you before we take a break, because I guess you have something to share.
Cool. Okay, I actually have two things for everybody. The first one is not Obi-Wan related. The second one is. So I will start with the first one. If you follow me on Twitter or in our Discord, you will have, you might have seen that I did a little something over the weekend, something big. I got a tattoo, a Star Wars tattoo. And I wanted to show it off to everybody. So I got it on my right wrist. And let's see if we can get it nice to the camera.
That is
here.
sick.
Very
so,
nice.
It's a little blurry, but it's the Skywalker saber. And down below it in Arabesh is MTFBWY for May the Force be with you. So
very nice.
That is so cool.
Yeah, thank you. I have been like envisioning this tattoo for like so long, and like even like down to the location. Like I've just kind of known that I wanted this for so long, and I finally pulled the trigger on it. So it was great. I went to a great tattoo shop in my local area, and the guy that did it, he was really great, and got it done in like an hour. I was like in a lot of pain, but I made it through. It's good. It's good. And so the other thing I have for you that's Obi-Wan related is I'm not wearing any Jedi robes tonight, obviously. It's very sad.
Or a Jedi sweater.
Or a Jedi sweater. That's right.
Thank you.
And that's it's unfortunate, but I do remember that I used to own Jedi robes, like when I was a kid, for Halloween. And I was like, man, I really feel like I have a picture of this. And this was like 15 minutes before the show when we were talking about it. And so, I went on my computer, started looking through all my pictures. I just scrolled all the way up to the top because I was like really young. And I found this picture from 2008 and I wanted to share it with you all. I was a Jedi for Halloween. You can tell I was really into it. Here it is. Boom.
Oh,
yes.
Yes.
Is
excellent. Wow.
That is great.
So that is my, my contribution to the Jedi-ness for tonight. So yeah, it was October 2008. So I was 7, and the Clone Wars was just coming out. So Star Wars hype was real for me. So, Justin in the chat says some nice shoes. It's funny, like, do you guys remember like when you were kids and the costumes had like built-in shoes?
They still do. Speaking as a
do.
parent who buys their kids those costumes, they still do.
No way. That's insane.
Yes.
It's so funny to me. And also one other thing I wanted to point out, like that I just noticed, like just now. Can you guys see how beat up that blade is? Like, It's kind of like discolored. Like my sister and I would whack the crap out of each other with those. I think I still have them somewhere, but good memories. So I wanted to at least make some sort of contribution to the Jedi robe gang.
Well, that was worth the wait. That even though you're not dressed up now, that definitely makes up for it. So good job on that. So all right. That was definitely worth putting off the break. So now we're going to go ahead and go to break. And then when we come back, we are going to talk about the Journals of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So we'll be right back.
it's the best back cover since the Star Wars Episode 1 hardcover novelization, the one with young Anakin, because on the back, just to remind y'all, is a full headshot of Watto.
It's so big.
I think I brought this up on one of the earliest episodes of the Living Force ever, and I thought I'd bring it back.
Oh my god, yeah. Series and all of Legends. What do you guys think? Could it be the X-Wing series? Might just be the most romance-intensive series ever. And we're not just talking about the scene where Corran Horn describes his love affair with an otter. I mean, a Salonian that he hooked up with her and then he broke out in chives.
Yeah, not chives.
Not chives. What's it called? The bumps?
Hives, dude. Hives.
Chives go on your potato.
I'm hearing you say the same thing.
Chives, what you put on the under potato. No C. Hives.
Hives.
Not chives.
What did I say?
Chives.
It's not a very common story to approach. Yeah, again, drawing the complex family tree of Jango to clone identical son to clone all identical millions of sons, but they're a generation older. So then the son is kind of all Jango's equal, but then Boba is a generation younger, but then that clone's son is Boba's age, but then is Boba his dad or his nephew or his uncle or his cousin? It's like
All right, so tonight we are talking about the trade paperback from the Journals of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And this is technically referencing issues throughout the run of the 2015 Star Wars title. It is not a series of them, but back to back. It's kind of a collection. It is going to be very similar to the Black Chrysanthemum collection that is coming out soon, where they kind of take all of the ones that feature him most heavily and put them all in one grouping. So tonight we are going to be talking about issues 7, 15, 20, and then some of issue 37, and they're all featured in the journal. They are written by Jason Aaron, and issue 37 also features Dash Aaron. The art is by Simone Bianchi, Mike Mayhew, and Andrea Sorrentino. Now, some of you might be like, well, hold on. The Journals of Obi-Wan Kenobi has a lot more than just those issues, and you would be absolutely correct. They do also include issues 26 through 30. However, we will not be discussing those tonight, since while they are from Obi-Wan's journal, they don't really have a lot to do with Kenobi himself. So we decided, you know what, let's just save that for another time. They mainly focus with Yoda. So in the keeping with the spirit of Kenobi Week, we will be focusing on the 4 issues that are more Obi-Wan centric. And we are starting with issue 7. I'm going to go ahead and provide that synopsis. We see a drought-ravaged Tatooine. The farmers can barely make enough water to trade to feed themselves. That doesn't stop Jabba's goons from wanting to roam the land and pillage all of the water from all the locals. Obi-Wan, trying to do the best that he can to not be a Jedi and just be Ben, finds it harder and harder to remain quiet during all of this injustice, and almost comes to blows with the Brute Squad several times. He is able to avoid them until he realizes that the Lars homestead is in danger. He first is able to Jedi mind trick them into leaving them alone. But then young Luke goes missing as he attempts to steal the water from the thugs. And then Obi-Wan has to kind of reach back into his bag of tricks, knock out all the lights, knock out all the goons, and save Luke and bring him back to Beru and Owen unharmed. And he's able to put away his persona of old Ben for a moment to be able to ensure that Luke is safe. So as that issue ends, we go back to Luke in traveling to Dagobah, and then that issue ends. And the next time we see Ben is issue 15. And Timothy, you've got that synopsis.
Yes, I do. This was probably my favorite issue of all of them. But anyways, we catch Luke being reckless in his skyhopper because, of course, he's like his dad, and suffers a bad crash. Uncle Owen, figuratively and literally, grounds the boy. But Ben knows that Luke needs to know how to fly. So he hatches a plan. He assists some Jawas, protecting them from a Tusken Raider attack, with a cry of Utini, because of course we have to make our presence known. The Jawas leave parts to fix the broken flyer with Luke the next time that they visit. But Owen knows what's happening. He takes the parts straight to Ben's house and tells him again he should not be part of Luke's life because we know what happened last time. Meanwhile, Jabba hires a bounty hunter to find out who ambushed his tax collectors the last year. And with a mighty roar, the one and only Black Chrysanthemum is on the case. And then Emma, take us to issue number 20.
Yeah, all right. Love me some Black Chrysanthemum. So this issue opens up on Chrysanthemum. He's tracking down the warriors who defeated the thugs, aka the tax collectors from the year before. Chrysanthemum attacks the Lars's house and captures Owen. Ben feels this disturbance in the Force and rushes to his aid and begins a deadly clash with Chrysanthemum. Before Obi-Wan is forced to draw his lightsaber, that's like the last thing he wants to do. He doesn't want to, make his Jedi presence known. Obi-Wan scars the bounty hunter and hurdles him from a cliff. Luke makes a daring rescue of Uncle Owen in his repaired skyhopper, and peace returns to the desert planet. Next to the little short story, I guess you could call it. Caleb, you've got that synopsis.
Absolutely. Issue 37 had a couple, like 2 or 3 short stories. This is a longer issue. But this short vignette was about a Tusken life, about a child whose clan gets attacked, and as he wanders the sand, only to be scorned and turned away by all the human civilizations, only to be rescued by Ben, and as he returns him safely back to his own people. That was a summary, one sentence. It was still a really good it was a really good sort of tale that they told there. It's really fun we've been getting a lot of Tusken love over the last couple years, and this definitely fit into that of Ben being the protector of all life on the planet of Tatooine.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So now that we've gone ahead and given you guys the summaries, let's go ahead and talk about the characters in these featured in these stories. And Caleb, the first character that you have listed here is not Obi-Wan Kenobi, but Old Ben. Tell us kind of why you distinguish between the two.
I want to first talk this old Ben guy. He's like this weird old dude who lives in the desert all by himself, and nothing ever interesting seems to happen around him. It's like he's doing everything he can to stand out, right, guys?
Everything.
Yeah, of course. He's totally incognito.
Exactly.
I mean, he's a Jedi. Trouble follows him everywhere, of course.
Exactly. Joking aside, do we see sometimes that he's trying to put on the persona, like the robe of old Ben as a distinct personality from his Jedi Knight Obi-Wan Kenobi? Is that a different personality, or do you think it's trying to be just a protective layer to guard against this knighthood from being too valorant, too goody two shoes? When he came to Tatooine, do you think that was something that he formed, or do you think that was just a transition of who he was?
I think he was totally caught off guard by Owen's continued refusal to allow him to be near Luke. I think what happened on Dagobah in Empire Strikes Back, I think is if we could get into his mind, I think that's what he envisioned. Is, what, we're gonna live here quietly and peacefully, but at the same time we need to prepare the boy just in case. And I love, there's a lot of similarities between especially issue 7 and the novel Kenobi, in that he's trying to lay low. He's trying to not be a Jedi. He is very audibly internal monologuing the struggle. I think one of my favorite lines from issue 7 is he says something along the lines of, Qui-Gon, you didn't prepare me for this. You didn't prepare me to turn off being a Jedi. As difficult as it was to become a Jedi, it's even more so to turn it off. And that's what I think what makes this story so interesting, because he can't. What's the line in the trailer? A Jedi's weakest weakness is his
sympathy,
passion.
essentially.
Yeah, like basically, as we've seen in the trailers, the Inquisitors basically just be patient. A Jedi has to help people, and if you wait long enough and you cause enough commotion, they will show themselves, and then we have them. And you really, really see that struggle with Obi-Wan, especially in the novel. As I'm sure that they'll discuss later, but there are very much similarities between issue 7 and then the more long form version of that in the novel.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I see a big difference between like Ben Kenobi and Obi-Wan Kenobi, because Ben Kenobi is okay with like letting things happen because he has to, like, whereas Obi-Wan wouldn't stand up for like any injustices. So I definitely see a big difference, and I think that comforts him too. Like, oh, I'm Ben Kenobi now. Like, I can't help people, and I think that allows him to sort of like justify that in a way. And I like what Justin said in the chat. He said, if people differentiate between Vader and Anakin, I also see no problem with the same applying to Obi-Wan and Ben. And that is a stellar point. That is such a good point, and I think I'm going to end my point with that point because it is so good.
Yeah, I think it's true of just growing up, right? Like we all kind of inherit and try to create these identities, whether we're, in different settings or work environments or whatnot. But inherently, the pieces of us that have been ingrained in us for so long will always kind of poke through and shine through. So I think he's honestly trying to develop this new personality, I guess, as you put it, Caleb. But obligation of lifelong of servitude, it has no choice but to show up. So yeah, I think it is a great call out to differentiate the two, because I do think he is trying. But yeah, guys got to do what a guy's got to do. That's who he is. He's the greatest Jedi of all time, arguably, right? Like the best representation of what it means to be a Jedi. So trying to turn that off is very, very difficult, I imagine.
But at the same time, Timothy, I think he's the only one who can't. Like if you were to take, like, separate Anakin, and insert Anakin into this position, Anakin would never let Owen
that's true.
Keep him away. Qui-Gon, while he wouldn't necessarily be as, Anakin would probably be a little bit more in his face, and absolutely not. Qui-Gon could not sit there and be quiet. Mace Windu could not sit there and hide for 40 years. I could, Yoda is Yoda. So therefore, a little green guy would probably, cause some questions, but I don't think there's another Jedi who could have hidden away for 20 years and become the hermit that is Ben Kenobi. And that in and of itself is a testament to the Jedi that Obi-Wan Kenobi was.
That's a great point.
Yeah, that's the wisdom that he has. He's the negotiator. We see it in the Revenge of the Sith novelization a lot. We see it some in the Kenobi novel and in all the comics. He's kind of the forefront of that piece. How do I make this happen? But that long kind of suffering wisdom and patience. Yeah, it's true really only to him, for sure.
Yeah, he plays the long game. He doesn't make any rash sort of moves that will hurt him later on. I think he knows that, like, if he trains, or like if he forcefully trains Luke now, he would definitely get into Owen's, bad graces and lose all chances of having a relationship with Luke later on. And I think he realizes, like, this guy's probably gonna die soon. Like, he lives in like a desert with like some pretty bad people. Like, Luke will grow up to make his own decisions, and just because he's older doesn't necessarily mean he can't be a Jedi. Look at Anakin. Like, I think all of these like thoughts were probably running through his head, just to sort of justify him being able to wait that long. He waited like, how old was Luke in A New Hope? Does anybody know off the top of their head?
I think he's supposed to be like 19.
Like
yeah,
19?
18,
Okay.
19.
Yeah.
So he waited all those years. He was, I don't think anybody can say that they've waited for something for that long, like specifically that they knew about, like very specifically, and he had that much patience. I think you're right, Tyler. Nobody else would be able to do that.
and until we see the show in 2 weeks, as far as we know, he never left. Right?
Right.
Like, I don't think that there's a story until we get the show that says that he ever left. So 19 years sitting in the desert, going and I think even this show, because it's Ewan, and Ewan is very young looking compared to Sir Alec Guinness. I get the feeling that this is, and what I think Luke is 7 in this
somewhere around there. Yeah.
That sounds
somewhere
right.
around there. I think that the what happens in this show is going to be, this is why I have to stay here and not and be Ben the Hermit and not Obi-Wan Kenobi, because I think something's going to happen that's going to put Luke or himself in jeopardy. And that's why he realizes, nope, I just got to stay still.
I just suddenly had the realization, because you're talking about, this is, young Ewan McGregor, well, middle-aged Ewan McGregor. I can't help but wonder if they're going to have a scene where he has to like take a face full of Sith lightning and then they deep fake Alec Guinness's face onto him.
It'd be a cool moment.
We've seen it before.
Can you imagine the outrage though?
It's like, people are like, wow, he certainly aged a lot in these like 20 years. It's like, well, 1, desert air, and 2, who knows what happened.
Or instead of like getting like Sith lightning, maybe like the Sith can like influence the weather or something, and he gets struck by lightning instead.
He goes into a dust storm one way and comes out the other. That's how we end the series.
he forgets his robe and just has to walk through the desert, the storm, without any protection on his face.
All right, so I have a question specifically for the Obi-Wan Kenobi side of things. Do you think it was easier for him to essentially retire in Tatooine due to how far removed it was? Like, if you think he had like a live like news feed of what all the Empire was doing and all the terrible things that was happening, do you think he would have been able to stay?
I don't think so. I think, I mean, as we've seen, or as we saw in this comic, like even when he sees, Jabba's people taking water from people, he can't even sit by and watch that. So if he was in, I know Coruscant's a bad example because it's like the imperial capital, but a city planet,
like
basically.
even Alderaan, essentially.
Even somewhere that's like mildly metropolitan, like
Corellia.
Corellia is a great example. Say he settled on Corellia. I don't think he'd last like 3 days without having to help somebody, because I mean, you would see so many like injustices just in a day, whereas Obi-Wan, like on Tatooine, it's just kind of like a slow build up, and he's able to like go into hiding. If he's fighting somebody out in the desert, there's like nobody else around to see it. So if he, uses a mind trick and everybody forgets, it's like not a big deal. But if he was in a city, I don't think he'd be able to hide for very long, for sure.
Absolutely.
I think it was easier with the singular focus of watching over Luke. I think it would have been more difficult if he had been around other Jedi.
True.
Or had seen other kind of Jedi outcasts. I think while I know that he and Yoda and Bail kind of had their mission parameters, I feel like he probably would have fudged things a little bit to try to make sure that his colleagues were safe. And that could have jeopardized things more than just knowing what's going on in the galaxy, but knowing that more of him were suffering the way that they were. I think if he was able to put a face to a situation, I think that would have been hard.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like,
I was
if
going to
he-
ask.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask Caleb. Is this, in this hypothetical, are we talking about he is protecting Luke on another planet, or he has just gone into hiding on another planet?
Like, imagine if he had decided to protect Leia with Bail.
That's interesting.
I think he has enough responsibility and duty to put the protection of the child, and therefore the Jedi Order, and therefore the galaxy first. I think it would have been a lot harder for him.
Oh yeah.
And I think that he would have struggled a lot more, but I still I have faith in old Ben.
Absolutely. I just couldn't imagine that if he knew Ahsoka was out there as, Fulcrum and like the burgeoning rebel thing, he could not have stood still with that.
Yeah, I think that's also probably right. I see what you're saying. Like, could he have not become a Fulcrum or helped the Ghost crew, every once in a while?
Trained Ezra even.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I can see his sense of duty for both on both sides of that.
Damn, what an alternate universe take that would have been.
Yeah,
that'd
absolutely.
be fun to see in like what was that comic that did like almost like Star Wars
Infinites.
What If?
Like Infinities.
Infinites.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been fun to see in that.
Bring it back, Marvel, or even Dark Horse now that they have the thing back.
That'd be cool.
All right.
That's the first thing they do with the license.
I'd be perfectly happy with that. All right, so let's move on to some of the supporting characters here. The meme lord himself, Uncle Owen. Like if you're not on Twitter recently, or if you're watching this years down, the line that Uncle Owen says in the trailer, like
Obi-Wan says, but he needs to be trained.
Like you trained his father.
Ooh. There is no. I mean,
get dunked on.
There has been a murder.
It's over. It's
exactly.
over. All in the match.
I was about to say the memes have spoken, and Owen is now the voice of reason in the Star Wars universe.
And now Obi-Wan is dead.
Exactly. Like, do you think he was like being too harsh to Ben? Like, to add one more like point towards Owen's favor, like the moment the day Obi-Wan finally met Luke and had a one-on-one conversation, like Uncle Owen and his wife died.
So here's my only
to the day.
Here's my only further question on that. How does he know what happened to Anakin?
I'm assuming Obi-Wan told him.
I would think that would that would come with the package of here's a kid and he's related to you, and here's what had happened was his dad killed his mom, and he's kind of like, I don't know, I maybe left him for dead in the lava, but maybe not.
I chopped off 3/4 of his limbs in one move. It was sick.
Okay, yeah,
now
I guess I could see Obi-Wan being like, no, I'm telling you the whole truth because I can't hide. Yeah, okay, all right, that's fine.
I could see that too. Although, wouldn't that be fun to see in the show? Like, honestly, that like to see his Owen's reaction, that would be funny.
Yeah, to get some kind of a flashback to that very moment. Yeah, that'd be nuts.
I want that moment now. Here's a baby. Here's why you're getting the baby. Now take care of the baby.
Yeah. I mean, I think Owen's kind of justified. I mean, in his actions, responses. I mean, he knows how rash Anakin was, especially with everything that happened in Attack of the Clones. Happy 20th birthday, by the way. But I guess, I mean, knowing everything that happened, I'd imagine, especially growing up over the years, he's probably seen some of those antics come across from Luke, and like even in these comics we've seen Luke can be a little bit reckless. He wants to go off and do his own thing, and so seeing that, I imagine there is some validity to his anger and bitiness towards Obi.
Well, and we have to assume that he's not talking about training when he's 2. He's probably talking about training him when he's 5, 6 years old. So Owen has been his parent for, however many years now. So speaking as a parent, yeah, I could totally see the overprotectiveness of, you're not getting near my boy. I don't care what greater calling he has. I am going to protect him from the likes of you and your crazy sorcery, because you all failed and there's none of you left. So I can see that.
And now you want to train Luke to be like so he's number 1 on the galactic most wanted list of a Jedi.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I could also see some nagginess from Obi-Wan too on wanting to train Luke, because Anakin started training too late, and so maybe Obi-Wan's going, if I got to him sooner, maybe he wouldn't turn out that way. So I could also maybe see a history of pestering to be like, look, he's getting old, I need to do this or it's going to end up badly.
That's very true. I mean, I think like Owen's stance has always made more sense if you look at it from the perspective of a parent. Like, I mean, I'm not a parent, but like if I pretended like I was raising Luke, Owen makes a ton of sense. Like, not only did Anakin turn to the dark side, but Obi-Wan, they think that he killed him. I mean, it's like, patterns tend to repeat themselves, so it's like if so much is at stake, that thing at stake being Luke, potentially his life, I don't think that there's any reason to think that Obi-Wan wouldn't do that again, especially because, it's not like Owen has known Obi-Wan like he knew Anakin. I think if they had had a relationship before, maybe there would be a little bit more trust, but I completely agree with Owen, and honestly, like, I don't think I've ever disagreed with him, like, if I'm being completely honest. As much as I want to root for Obi-Wan because I love Obi-Wan, I don't know many people that don't love Obi-Wan and don't want to root for him and stuff, but I feel like it's always kind of made sense in a way.
It boils down to they are both incredibly beautiful men, and they can't be wrong. Neither of them can be wrong.
So I just want to share this quick quote, which is not something we usually do, but this was been talking about Owen from issue 20. Tatooine does not abide cowards; it turns them to ash. He says that after Owen tries to gut tackle Black Chrysanthemum. It's like listen, we both, like, him and Owen were in the middle of like a very desperate fight, and he's like, and Owen has just gone off on Obi-Wan for being too nosy and too dangerous, but like the moment like it comes down to the wire, he absolutely has his back in like a life and death situation.
Yeah, I love that quote too. It stuck out to me immediately. I was like when I read that, I was like, oh damn, that's a good quote. Like, it just kind of hits you because it's right. I mean, it's totally true. Like, Owen, I think if he says something to Obi-Wan about how it's interesting that the water tax collectors never come to their house and stuff like that. But I think if I were to imagine like him dealing with water collectors or whatever, I think he would react similarly to how he reacted to Black Chrysanthemum, like, get off my lawn type of thing, like, go away, I'm not giving you any of my water. Like, he's like a strong man that really wants to protect his family, like, no matter what that costs. And even though Obi-Wan, he doesn't consider him his family per se, he certainly, I think deep down in his mind, he appreciates the protection that Obi-Wan provides. Like, even though he's like irritated with him, I think he does understand that like this is probably for the better, if not for me, if not for Beru, for Luke. And I think honestly like that's probably at the core of why he tried to fight back against Chrysanthemum when Obi-Wan was down.
Well, and how much do you think the memory of his own father and stepmother probably plays a role? I mean,
Yeah.
he saw what happened to Shmi and what that did to Anakin. So I feel like subtly, subconsciously, that probably also plays a role of I'm going to protect my family because I don't want to have to go through that.
Yeah.
There could also be some concern that maybe if Luke doesn't get to experience these things naturally, that he won't be able to overcome them on his own, and he will not do a good job. So by not allowing Luke to see some of that, it could be it could turn him into a coward because he's going to grow up, but he's not going to know how to deal with it, and he might be not necessarily brazen, because we saw him kind of go after it later. But yeah, I'm wondering if he's almost wishing for some of that. Like, let me raise him, let him experience life as it is here truly, so that he can do better than that and not be turned to ash.
Exactly. And that kind of leads into the next discussion question I have here about Luke Skywalker himself. Do you think how important do you think it was to Luke have a, for lack of a more appropriate term, normal childhood compared to his father? Like, growing up, with like friends his own age who weren't destined to be warriors, bored on his farm growing up. Do you think how important was that for Luke's like development?
I think it was important. Like, he was, if you think about it, almost like in a genetic way, he was kind of destined to turn dark at some point, and he certainly, he had plenty of reason to, I would say, and so I think, he in those moments when things were dark, he got his hand cut off, and he found out like that one of the most evil people in the galaxy was his father. I think in those moments he probably thought back to Owen and Beru and to his time on Tatooine, thinking like, the fate of the galaxy is at stake, and like the fate being like normal lives, like the life that I lived. I think like Jedi can't really separate like their life from like a normal life because I've never experienced it before. So I think that it just gave him like a greater perspective on what is at stake in this war.
And you suddenly had made me realize that in the comics, like specifically, we constantly see Luke going like second guessing himself and doubting himself. Like, am I a Jedi? Am I good enough to be a Jedi? There's no way I can live up to this. There's absolutely nothing I can do that will to stop Vader at this point. Like, why am I even trying? Like, I'm just a farm boy. So that like, and I'm not saying like, self-doubt is like a good thing, but compared to Anakin never once second guessed himself.
Right. It kept himself in check.
Yeah, never. Anakin's like biggest failing was his first step was his pride, So
I can't answer this question without talking Legends, because Legends, all of these books, all 150 of these books are in some form or fashion about Luke Skywalker. They're not about, there is no Rey in Legends. There is no, I mean, there are, but there's a line that goes back to Luke. And I think that right there is all the answer that you need to know about why his normal childhood and his compassion for people was important to him, because it allowed him to grow the Jedi Order back into its the protectors of the galaxy that they were. And we don't, and the reason that I say this because good or bad, the canon does not focus as much on Luke and does not focus as much on the OG characters, as they've been recently called in Vanity Fair. That it's hard, there's so many stories about Luke in Legends that are amazing. And as Justin said in the chat, it's the fact that he had a normal childhood is the most important thing that happened to him, because it allowed him to have a different level of experience and grow the Jedi and allow the Jedi to evolve, to allow for those experiences and realize, no, caring about people and protecting people and second guessing myself to ensure that I'm protecting those that I love is not a bad thing. It is not, that you can do both. And it made him the hero that we all grew up with.
Yeah, and growing up without having the label of the chosen one on you, I'm sure also takes a lot of pressure off.
Good point.
So, Anakin all throughout the Clone Wars series, even some of the newer books that we're getting kind of prequel focused, like he wears this chip on his shoulder. Because yes, he was ripped away from his home, he's cognizant, he remembers all that, but also everyone thinks that he's the chosen one, so he always has something to prove. And Luke has nothing to prove except for that he knows that he has to save his friends. And I think that's the difference in the way that they were brought up. Luke had this greater sphere of care around him, and I think he was able to put that ahead of, while Anakin, yes, wanted to, save Padme and, rule the world, whatever, that was always out of a prideful place. I think Luke left an empire because, not of pride, but because he desperately just needed to help his friends. He knew that they needed him. And there's a very different, even though it's the same action, there's a very different intent to that. And 100%. I think that upbringing definitely makes the difference.
Absolutely. So any other discussions that you guys want to talk about, fun things you want to mention about these comics that we read before we move on to some Easter eggs here?
I'm so ready for the Easter eggs. They are my favorite.
Nothing that I'm going to go into too much depth here, but if I will just say, and I'm sure that they'll get into this again tomorrow night, if you enjoyed these stories and you haven't read the novel Kenobi, do yourself a favor and read that, because the elements of this story are expanded so much in that novel. And it's not the most action-packed novel, but it is a really good character dissection of both Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ben Kenobi. So do yourself a favor, ignore the silly Legends banner and read a really, really amazing Star Wars story.
Absolutely. And it's like a Western. It's got cowboys and engines and 6-shooters.
Also,
it's great.
Kenobi adjacent, read the rest of the trade paperback. Yoda's Secret War is weird, but it's one of my favorite arcs in all of Star Wars.
I agree with all of those statements.
Lord of the Flies meets Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was flipping through them because I was gathering images for the show, and I was like, how do I not remember this? I was like, that's like there's like all these like like preteen kids, and they've got like war paint, and they're not wearing any clothes, and it's like, what is happening?
Yep.
I love it. Well, I do have some Easter eggs for you guys, because I actually was thinking about it while reading this time, and it's a little easier to think of them like as you're reading. And I don't know how Charles and Jacob do this like for everything, because it is so difficult. And this is like the first list of Easter eggs I put together. Seriously, props to you guys. This is like the most insane game you guys do. But I had to give it my own shot. And the thing that actually inspired me to do this was in issue number 7, when Ben tries to sell black melons. I was like, ooh, those black melons, they look familiar. And this was actually their first appearance. If you remember, the first time they showed up in live action was in The Mandalorian, Chapter 9, The Marshal. And in many episodes of the Book of Boba Fett afterwards, it's like the things that they crack open to like drink water, and it's disgusting. And this was their first appearance, so we have comics to thank for that. Also in issue number 7, Ben describes how rumors say that Jabba is stealing water to take baths in, but Ben says that he's met Jabba before and knows he's never bathed in his life. And that got me thinking, I feel like we've seen Obi-Wan and Jabba meet before, and sure enough, this meeting is actually referring to when Obi-Wan was negotiating a treaty with him while Anakin and Ahsoka were rescuing his son Rada. Yes, this is the plot of the Clone Wars movie.
What a pull!
Wow.
I have no idea what made me think of that, but I was proud of that. So
Wow.
I did double check on the Wook, so very happy. Again, in issue number 7, there was just a very distinct visual reference to me to the Obi-Wan trailer when Luke was sitting on top of the homestead. They're like virtually identical, except the difference is that he's right on top of the small dome that's over the roof. Over the door.
The archway.
In the trail, yeah, the archway, yeah, in the trailer. Whereas in the comic, he's kind of like lower and like off to the right from the main door. But it definitely reminded me of that. So they probably read these comics and took some inspirations. Moving on to issue number 15, we see Luke flying his T-16 Skyhopper through Beggar's Canyon while he's on the radio with his friend Biggs. These are all references to dialogue from A New Hope. You know, it's just like bullseyeing womp rats. Something Beggar's Canyon back home.
Mm-hmm.
And we also see Luke crash the T-16 in this issue. And for some reason, I didn't go back and look at this in the movie, but for some reason, I feel like you can see the crashed T-16 in the scene, the Leia hologram scene in the garage. I feel like you can see it. I might be wrong.
You definitely can see like the chassis of the Skyhopper in one of those scenes on the inside of the Lars household. Yeah,
and
and then he plays with the miniature version as well.
He's definitely playing with the Matchbox version in his garage.
Good, yeah, he's probably all upset that it's like broken and stuff. But then we see he fix it, but
he probably
crashed it again. Like,
yep,
that's just how it goes with the Skywalkers. All right, 2 more. Issue number 15 still. Obi-Wan gets really stressed when he watches Luke flies, and this seriously reminded me of Anakin in Attack of the Clones when he was flying the speeder in the Zam Wesell chase, and also in Revenge of the Sith with the landing of the invisible hand. He's a very anxious guy when it comes to flying, and then that definitely comes through here. Last one, also issue number 15. Obi-Wan and Owen are arguing, and they have a very similar interaction as they do in the Obi-Wan trailer. So in the comics, Owen says, "Before you got him killed," as a rebuttal. And in the trailer, he says, like you trained his father. So these are basically like, kind of switches of each other in terms of dialogue between the comic and the trailer. So I can't wait to see what other similarities we can pull once we get the full show. So those are my Easter eggs.
Pretty good
Great
Easter
work.
eggs. Yeah, great.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for our contribution to Kenobi Week. But Kenobi Week is not done yet, Emma. What more do we have in store for everybody this week? And then leading into next week, we also have something big going on next week as well.
That is very correct. So for the rest of Kenobi Week, we have Legends Look Back tomorrow. We are discussing Kenobi by John Jackson Miller. Why did I say we, you ask? I will be joining the Legends Look Back crew to talk about this book. I'm very, very excited. It'll be my, first time reading it, so should be interesting.
I was about to say, yes, if you haven't actually read it, you still have time technically before that show airs.
There is still time. And hey, even if you don't have time, it lives on the internet forever. So, feel free to, watch it or listen to it after you do read it. Very excited. We also have the Star Wars Archives on Sunday, May 22nd. This is our Patreon bonus show, and they'll be talking about the Ben years, which should be really interesting. I can't wait to see what crazy facts Trev comes up with next. And then in terms of what is happening with the Living Force next week, it is the Celebration pre-show. Because, guys, Celebration is a week from tomorrow, so we're getting there. And for us, next week, a week from, like, right now, I will be in Disneyland. So
I will be on an airplane.
And yes, Tyler will be on an airplane. So obviously we will not be going live. However, we will still have a show premiering for you guys. We're going to pre-record it, and it's going to be all about looking ahead to Star Wars Celebration and what we're excited for, what we're hoping to see from the Marvel Star Wars panel, as well as just things that we're excited for in general. So that should be a lot of fun. So next time we talk to you guys live, Celebration will have been over. That is absolutely crazy. So I can't wait to talk to you guys about what happens and see if there's any comics news. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we go, I do want to make sure that we shout out to Jose. Can we put that graphic back up one more time?
Absolutely.
He put this graphic together for Kenobi Week. So shout out to Jared for coming up with this idea and seeing this thing this thing through. He was really the driving force behind this. Shout out to Jose for creating this graphic, and then all the other rest of the team for contributing the way that we do. Shout out to our patrons, because it is it is your continued contributions and appreciation that causes us to continue to figure out ways to provide you better and better content. So really want to shout out to everybody involved.
Yeah, and one more thank you to Jared. I'm just realizing now, I don't think we actually shouted him out at the beginning when we were talking about the Obi-Wan variant comics. He actually gathered all of those images for us. So big thank you to Jared there. And yeah, this whole event, guys, I'm not even kidding when I say that it would not have happened without Jared. So man, thank you so much. And this is not the only thing he has planned for you guys. Let me tell you something. So it should be fun. Definitely look forward to that.
All right. Well, until next time, I think that is going to do it for this week's episode of The Cosmic Force. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the show right here on YouTube, where you can hear us live every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. We also encourage you to subscribe to our audio version on whatever podcast platform you listen to. You can also follow us on Twitter and tweet at the show at Cosmic Force Show to stay informed about Star Wars comics happenings, or you can tweet the shows individually. I'm at Ty Rags, Emma is at Irma Jedi 26, Caleb is at Caleb Lamanek, Jacob is at Jacob Bosch, and Timothy is at TC Guthrie 2. For reviews, articles, and news for the rest of the expanded universe, be sure to visit utini.com. We also encourage you to join our Utini Discord community by going to utini.com/discord. And you can help support the show by heading to patreon.com/utini to start receiving exclusive perks starting at just $5 a month. A special thank you to OK Endar, Brian Dooley, Earl Q, Patrick Ortiz, and Carl Sander on our Jedi High Council, as well as Elizabeth Cloutier, Freddie C, and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command. Thank you again for all of your continued amazing support. Thanks again to Emma, Caleb, and Timothy for hosting the meeting tonight. Thank you to you all who joined us live, and a special thank you to our listeners wherever and whenever you are joining us. We truly appreciate your support. We won't see you guys live next week, but until we do come back live, may the Force be with you.